Hello everyone, this is Persephone, and in this video I'm going to share with you how idiocracy has led me to permanent misanthropy. By misanthropy I mean that I don't hate all people, but I can say that I hate a good 85% of them, or I have a very low opinion of them in general. And I know that in the comments there are going to be so many people who are going to have this idea that their comment is the most unique thing in the world, and they're going to be writing things like, oh, if you have a problem with everyone you meet, then you are the problem. And I want to share that because there were some recent events. If you have watched my previous videos, you know about the lovely ladies of a specific phone sex site, that they were extremely ungrateful towards my help. But honestly, it's not about people who are unkempt, overweight, and they think that a few listings and being stuck in a 17-year dead-end job is a career. It's not about them. They're just a nail in the coffin of many extremely low IQ, extremely unpleasant, extremely annoying people. And I'm going to try to keep this video from becoming a rant, but I'm going to alternate between real-life examples, online examples, and thoughts about misanthropy in general. First of all, if you want to get one sentence life advice from me, that is, if it's popular, it's wrong. If it's popular, it's going to make you unhappy. In general, I believe that everything we hear from society, almost everything, is a lie. And the latest lie to get this out of the way is UBI, Universal Basic Income. My prediction about that, and mark my words, is that it's a total scam. It's essentially Santa Claus for adults. And once AI take over, we will be going full force cyberpunk dystopia, where the rich will have all the life extension technologies and wealth producing technologies, and the rest of the people will be about how they are right now. And I say this being extremely pro AI because I don't believe that it's AI who will do it. It's going to be humans using AI. When it comes to my life as an autistic person, I think that I have been born without this filter that makes people concoct comfortable delusions in order to survive in this world. And for a very long time, when I was hearing people say that autism is a superpower, I cringed. I was like, oh my God, okay, sure, whatever. Just stay away from me as far as you can because it's an embarrassment. But now I realize that if I had to choose between being autistic and staying in the harsh truth and being a neurotypical and needing delusions, I would much rather be autistic. And that's probably the first time in my life that I say this. To take things from the very beginning. If you're suffering right now, spiritually, mentally, financially, physically, I believe that there is one main reason. And that is you're surrounded by narcissistic, very low IQ people who control your life. These people start from positions of authority around you, for example, your school that we're going to analyze, and mainly they are your family and your friends. It's total idiocracy all around. The people who say that idiocracy is starting now, I don't agree with that. In my life, my 99% reason for suffering was idiocracy and narcissism from those around me. The reason for that is that although society is very rigged, and has always been, if you ask me, and although there are people who get ahead in life because they were born into money, they were born from very talented parents, and they were born in a family where you were living and breathing into good habits the moment you were born, so they get ahead of everyone else just by living and being raised in that environment. There are still plenty of ways to get ahead, and in our time with the internet, there are even more ways to get ahead than ever before. So why don't you get ahead? I'm going to tell you an example from my real life. If you have watched my channel, you know in my formative years, like from 0 to 6 years old, I was living with my maternal grandmother and my father. My mother was not in the picture. She came back later because she's a goblin, but that's for different videos. So there is a thing you need to know about these people. My father was a former Marine, and my grandmother was a former Olympic athlete. She was a golden medalist in her time as a long-distance runner. And my father maintained the Marine routine well into his life. So they would routinely run 10 to 15 miles, both of them, like it was nothing. Because my parents were teen parents, so my grandmother was still relatively young. She was middle-aged when I was born. And believe it or not, until I went to elementary school, I didn't know that people in other families don't run. Even now that people would say to me that you're going to be in a wheelchair for most of your life, every time you have autoimmune flare-ups and you have arthritis, because I have gastrointestinal issues that now manifest as arthritis, I still run 6 miles. I ran 6 miles yesterday in essentially what is a light snowstorm. And it's nothing. And that is not because I have exceptional genetics, it's because of how I was raised. Now, if you compare that to a person who comes from a sedentary obese family, just being with these people gave me an advantage. Does that mean that if you come from an obese family and you want to get into running or you want to get fit, you can't? You can. Here is the thing though. Everyone who's around you, because if you have an obese family, you most likely have obese sedentary friends, will try to do whatever they can to keep you stuck. Every time in my life that I had an idea to start anything, to try anything, literally everyone and their dog and their dog's best friend would come out of the woodwork to immediately tell me why it's not going to work out. Every single time. When I started YouTube years ago, everyone told me, oh my God, who do you think will watch the garbage you plan to post about? You're autistic. Nobody likes you. Nobody cares. There are 300 hours of content uploaded every second. Just give up already. And someone can say, okay, YouTuber is a controversial job. Fine. It was like that with everything. These people, I disagree with a lot of things Kanye West said. I'm not going to even talk about what he said, some atrocities that can get me banned from YouTube, but he said one correct thing. There is something about being broke and a loser that makes people feel powerful to the point of omnipotence. Because you have people constantly giving you financial advice, constantly sabotaging you, constantly telling you how to live your life when they haven't achieved a single shit in their entire lives. And that blows my mind. That is not only narcissism, that is low IQ narcissism, because you can't even self-reflect at all. Essentially, if you're suffering right now, just look around you. People who are around you should be assets in your life. I don't care if they are blood relatives, I don't care if they are friends. If their whole business is your business and how they're going to keep you stuck, they have to go or they have to be lied to if you can go no contact with them. I'm a huge supporter of lying to evil people now, although when I was autistic and without these tools, I really suffered because I just said things the way I saw them, the no filter that I mentioned, and people just used the information to ruin me. I say these things because what I describe now in real life expands to online. And there were people who told me that what happened with the phone sex website, you let these people won, you should continue to give advice, and so on. Believe it or not, I'm not angry the most with the people who told me that they deserve to die. Although I have a few things to say about these people and their extra weight, but that's, again, I'm not going to say it because YouTube doesn't like hateful speech. I have no hate towards anyone. I'm very angry though because I had literally 50 women and some men who started to do phone sex, and they messaged me here and they said, thank you so much, your advice helped me. Great, fine, that's why I made the videos. The problem is, when that thread was up, when they were writing that I'm a person of flawed character, I'm a loser, I'm trash, and I deserve to be killed, the haters, where were these 50 people that I helped so much for free to go under the thread? And I don't need people to defend me, but I would like to see a comment that said, hey, this woman helped us so many times. Maybe saying that she deserves to die because she had some drama with some other person goes a bit too far. Maybe you need to tone it down a bit. Maybe I'm going to report you because it's a death threat. Not a single person out of all of these people that I helped went there to say anything to show as a thread of appreciation. But I had someone who messaged me on private and they said, oh, I don't know why they are attacking you and you will continue to make these videos, right? That really pissed me off. So after everything that happened and you don't say anything to them and they tried to get me reported and they managed to ban 2 of my listings for supposedly words that they are not allowed. If they could get me fired, they would have. Apparently they couldn't. So this person still feels entitled to hear free advice. I have a lot to say, but we're not supposed to curse on YouTube. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Overall, I believe that humanity has a narcissism problem and a low IQ problem, and 95% of the information you see online is pure garbage. For example, IQ doesn't matter. IQ makes the difference between who lives and who dies in many cases. That doesn't seem that I don't know people with very high IQ over 150 who are total losers. I do, because they have rampant mental illness that for whatever reasons they don't cure. But if you have low IQ and you exist in your life just going around collecting the most popular information, trying to make something out of it, then you will fail. I don't say this with hate, I just say it as a matter of fact. And it's time to start putting things into perspective. Another thing that I have in my real life that has started to really bother me is that when I go outside, I usually don't like to talk about my work and how much money I make, because I don't live in an area where having a lot of money or carrying a lot of money, a lot compared to the general population also, it can get you in trouble. So recently I was in a doctor's appointment because I needed some probiotics and some supplements that I have to do my own research and advocate for myself, because most doctors are legalized drug dealers. They do symptom management and not remission or cure approached like therapies. So there was a doctor that he also had an autoimmune problem that he put in full remission, and he's also doing carnivore, and he told me, just come over and I'm going to prescribe the stuff that you want to do to you. I looked it up and they are good, so let's go. And I was waiting there, and his secretary was his mother-in-law, a lady that she was in her 60s, and she was honestly insufferable. Like, for me, I would much rather have you against me and we have a physical fight and you punch me and you kick me. It's less pain than what I was subjected to in this waiting room. That she was talking to someone else and it was all pure ESFJ talk. I don't know if you're familiar with MBTI. I'm just going to describe it to you. So we went to the church and I presented this baking treat, and it had a lot of wheat inside, and I had wheat from last year that I put in the freezer. And do you think there was something in that wheat? Because people said it was a bit stale, and George's best mom's friend gave me a different recipe. So yeah, so also Sam was there with his wife. Did you see his wife? Are they going to get a divorce? I kid you not. 90 minutes of this, I wanted to rip my hair off and start banging my head in the wall like autistic nonverbal people do that. How do you do this? Stop. This is your work environment. And after she exhausted everything she had to say about the church, because the other woman had to leave that she was talking to, she went to me and she was like, so where do you work? And she said, do you need a written employment permission? Because it was a work day when I went there, and apparently a lot of people who are corporate slaves, they need a written note like we're in school where you say, oh, I wasn't this and this doctor, so please allow me to be away from my work for 2 hours, and I would much rather shoot myself in the head than rejoin that circus. So I told him, no, I don't work there anymore. I didn't want to say I'm self-employed. I didn't want to say I do YouTube, because people start to ask, okay, and what is the link to the YouTube channel and what else do you do? And something has happened that my adult media and my YouTube media have started to mix up in the names, although I have aliases, and then nudes start to pop up. And let's just say I'm trying to keep this train wreck outside of real life. So as I said, I don't work there anymore. And she's like, honestly, she would have been less surprised if I took a gun out of my bag and I aimed at her at the secretary's desk than if I said that I left the corporate job. After that, the contempt, the spurning, she wouldn't even look at me. She was like, you don't work there. He said, yeah, I have autoimmune problems. That's why I'm here to get, the supplements. It's like, I understand. So after that, she went and she said something to the doctor. I don't know what. I'm sure it was about me, because it was me, her, and another woman who had just come in, and she hadn't said anything, so I don't think it was about her. And then when I went to the doctor and I wanted him to prescribe me an extra test that measures inflammation levels, that again it's new and I saw it online, he said no. And he was very unfriendly all of a sudden. I mean, I got what I wanted, but there was a clear change in the atmosphere in that place. I don't plan to do anything against her actively, but I have tremendous amounts of negative energy towards her. And the reason for that is because I realized that she was judging me, because in her mind, you have to be just an NPC, such a corporate slave that, hey, you have health problems? I don't give a fuck. You just have to take the meds and go back to work and suffer, because that's what we do. That's the kind of people we are. That's the correct way. Well, I'm so sick of that, guys. I'm so sick of all of these brain dead, low IQ, narcissistic people who just try and try and try to control me with everything they have. And they have made my life miserable time and time again, to the point that I'm not nice anymore. There has to be retaliation from now on. The other thing that I'm really sick of is literally old religions and Confucianism. When you go on a journey to revenge, dig two graves. Okay, let's say you don't dig the graves. Let's say you just sit there like a nice good cock, and you take the blows, you take the abuse, you take the contempt, you use all of the escapism to cope. You cope with Xanax, you cope with alcohol, you cope with junk food, you cope with pornography, and you don't get revenge. What is going to happen to you? An eye for an eye makes the world go blind. Really? Would you really say to you the same thing if someone raped you? Would you say, oh, I'm just going to forgive my rapist? If you say you're a male, because there are a lot of men watching, some other man rapes you, would you say, oh, it's okay? Or would you say this fucker has to go to prison and get the taste of his own medicine? It's so easy for this low IQ narcissist to say, oh, just be the better person. I know that this sounds all over the place, but I'm just sharing different examples of people who ruin your life. There are two categories of people who are against consequences and reckoning, and proper punishment within the confines of the law. One category is people who are too low IQ to empathize and too low empathy in general, so they don't understand, they don't care to be in your shoes, not even for a minute, so they just shame you. And the other much bigger category is evil people who don't want to promote the idea of enforcing consequences for bad behavior. For example, your ex scammed you out of money, he should go to prison. I'm not saying to go and do damage property or slash his tires or other nonsense. I'm just saying you find a lawyer, you prove that he stole your money, he goes to prison because what he did is illegal. They don't want that to happen, and that's why there are people like my ex-mother-in-law that she has been cruising through life completely consequence-free until she met me. Until that point, everyone else, I don't want to say bad things about Asian culture in general. There are a lot of good elements, but let's just say standing up for yourself isn't one of them. So she had to meet a white person to see that, hey, you can't just do all of these things and get away with it. And then when you smell that I have money, you're like, hey, Persephone, let's become family again. We're family. I told you, you don't qualify to be my family. In fact, you don't even qualify to talk to me, if we're going to be honest. How dare you talk that to the elders, really? Because as an elder, isn't it a bit too late to be a scammer and a loser and all of that stuff? Anyway, my point is to get to the point of this video and not make it too long. The world has become full of people who are extremely disordered, and they get a lot of energy supply and satisfaction sadistically by ruining your life. That has made me a misanthropist. And one problem about these people is that they direct extreme amounts of energy towards stalking you and planning the next move. It's very, very difficult to understand this concept of hyperfocusing if you're not autistic or if you don't have OCD. But I'm going to tell you that I had my narcissistic mother saying that she even sees dreams about me being decapitated. And then I asked a psychiatrist and he said this is just her desire to see you dead, manifesting even in her sleep. Can you imagine the level of obsession? On the other hand, I do acknowledge that there is some truth in saying, hey, if you end up like this, you do let the lesser life forms win, because that's what they are. I'm just being honest here. No hate. So I'm trying to come up with an alternative plan, which is, first of all, I'm never going to give away anything for free for two reasons. Reason number one is because there are way too many evil people who abuse what I give for free, and they don't see it as generosity, they see it as stupidity, and that makes me a sucker, and it's time to stop being that. And the second is that I believe that you need to have a system where you need to be able to track down who says what. Obviously, that's not enforced yet, but I'm going to ask you, if we live in a world where all social media require to put a credit card and to put your real name, that leftist goblin who said you deserve to be killed, would he really have said it? Because it's different when it can immediately be traced back to you and it can mobilize retaliation. It's pretty malicious to say to someone you deserve to be killed, and I'm sure it's pretty legal in many countries. But everyone and their dog, behind the keyboard, hiding their face, so easy to say it, isn't it? So that's all for now. I think that I believe that this world is a circus and has always been. And personally, I'm not going to be nice anymore. And it's much better to be angry than to be depressed. If you're depressed, I read that depression is anger turned against oneself. This means you are living an extremely abnormal life, that you're conditioned by religion, by your awful family, your awful friends, the awful society, all of that together. You're conditioned to not behave like a human, to behave like something else. You eat garbage, you think garbage, and every time you feel even the slightest anger, someone is telling you to immediately stop, that you are a bad person or that you're a loser, and people live rent-free in your head. If someone ruined my life, they're going to be rent-free in my head until there is time to collect the rent and with interest. And then I'm going to move on. And I don't feel bad about that at all. It's much better than to tell myself, oh, it's all in the past. And then I have a bunch of psychosomatic illnesses and I wake up in the morning and I don't have any energy, or I can't succeed in any of my goals, because essentially the betrayal towards myself started from me. I don't know if you can understand that, but that's how I believe that a lot of people who are in permanent depression and they don't know why, you're not sad, you're angry, and you just suppress it. Or a lot of people who say autoimmune illnesses, they are not real illnesses and something causes it, we don't know what. I'm convinced that autoimmune illnesses have a background that is very, very connected to trauma and to abuse and to even ongoing abuse. Of course, like I said, I'm not suggesting being violent. In this channel, we are law-abiding citizens. And I'm not suggesting starting to do a bunch of illegal things. The first thing I would suggest is acknowledge that you're angry, go through the grieving process, write down who harmed you, so that you know that, because some people dissociate so much you may not even know what happened. Channel all of that anger into taking action and come up with a plan, a reckoning plan, not a revenge plan necessarily, which means people are going to get the consequences of their own actions or the fruit of their labor, however you want to call it. And I'm going to close the video with something that I found out very recently that made me really sad, for the wrong reason probably. And that is my ex-sister-in-law, who is, let's just say, if there is collect every negative stereotype that exists about Asian women, she has it, all of them. Like money greedy, unkempt, extremely vicious, lying, abusive, all of them. Obviously not every Asian woman is like that, but she is a very bad representative of Asian women. And she had a business that, I'm not going to mention the franchise, but it was a very immoral business if you ask me. It was in the bakery category and it glorified drugs. It had names of the products that they were resembling drugs. It was extremely overpriced and it was extremely unhealthy. It's the kind of stuff that give people ADHD and cancer long term. And one of your businesses went bankrupt recently. I saw it online. It had a bunch of one-star reviews. And there was even someone who said that they were severely disabled and poor and they won a coupon to get free cookies and some other free products from the bakery business. And it was a $15 coupon, and she found a way to not give them anything. And she kept lying to the disabled poor person and saying, I'm going to get back at you, I'm going to get back at you, and she never did. You're going to say, are you sad that she went bankrupt? Not at all, I'm very happy about that, but I'm sad because she went bankrupt before I even became successful enough to rub it in her face. So you see what kind of person we're talking about. But this woman, a few years ago, okay, not a few, some years ago, she was so happy that her mother was ruining my life. Unfortunately, being evil and being scheming and being a toxic person, it can get you ahead short term. But long term, it cannot be a substitute for laziness, for bad business ethics, and honestly, for just being a trash person all around. For me, if there is a disabled person and they say, please, I need cookies, even without the coupon, I would just give them a box of cookies. Like, come on. I'm not saying to turn the entire business into charity, but this was a one-time thing. Like, dude, are these $15 going to save you? What the hell? If I knew her in real life and anyone asked me, I would say, I don't know her. You saw us together one time. It wasn't me. It was someone who looks like me. I find this so embarrassing. Secondhand embarrassment. So, just saying, watch this video, tell me what you think, and please stop trying to manipulate me to give more free advice, because enough is enough. Thank you for watching.